It's here, the 6th annual SysDig Cloud Native Security and Container Usage Report. Get real-world, actionable security insights from companies using cloud and containers from industries around the world. For example, did you know that 87% of container images in production include a high or critical vulnerability? That's up from 75% last year. Or do you realize that companies running Kubernetes clusters larger than 1,000 nodes could save over $10 million a year? With deep runtime insights, SysDig delivers cloud and container security so you can stop attacks without wasting time. You can find all the details by downloading your copy of the report for free at sysdig.com/usage report. That's sysdig.com/usage report.
Cloudcast Media presents from the massive studios in Raleigh, North Carolina. This is the Cloudcast with Aaron Delp and Brian Gracely, bringing you the best of cloud computing from around the world.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to the Cloudcast. We are coming to you live from the massive Cloudcast studios here in Raleigh, North Carolina. Hope everybody is doing well. We are into February, into the early part of February, and by the time you're listening to this, it is probably going to be very close to, say, like February 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, somewhere in there. And I want to wish a big happy birthday to Aaron Delp. Aaron is hitting a big milestone, so happy birthday to him. Yeah, another Sunny Perspective show. Going to talk today about something that is being talked about a lot, but unfortunately not a lot of folks probably want to talk about it. But I want to kind of share some insight and advice and experience and some things around kind of, what's been kind of the buzz of the industry. And no, it's not ChatGPT. It's not cloud earnings. It's unfortunately a lot of the layoffs that we've seen happen around the tech industry. And, what I want to try and do is put some things in perspective. I don't want to run through a list of, all the companies who have, had layoffs and all sorts of things like that. What I want to kind of do is sort of share some of my own experience, and try and put some things in perspective for folks who either might be going through this, may have been affected by one of the layoffs, or may be concerned because they go, well, I'm in the tech industry and you never know when the end of some sort of new trend is happening. So kind of want to dive into that a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the reality that, layoffs in our industry are really common. I'm going to share some experiences of mine. I want to try and, kind of help people kind of get through some aspects of this, because the reality is, layoffs are difficult. They're difficult for, especially anybody who's directly impacted. But it's difficult for anybody who, for your families, for your friends around you, for all those things. Because at the end of the day, and I've seen this mentioned a lot of times. I know we have a tendency in our industry to kind of want to stack rank different kinds of jobs and which jobs are more important and this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, especially when things like this happen, I think, the most important thing you got to remember is, for anybody, for any given person, a job is super personal. It is super important. It is, the lifeline between you and a lot of different things, whether it's the most basic things you need, sort of Maslow's hierarchy, basic things of, food, shelter, clothing, types of things. But it also gives you a sense of self-worth. And so, I think we got to be really cautious in our industry, and really with anybody when we start getting callous about, jobs and, such and such a company deserved it or, whatever. No, at the end of the day, jobs are a big deal. So kind of want to spend some time talking about that. We'll get to it right after the break.
Are you struggling to keep up with the demands of managing and securing identity in your distributed enterprise IT environment? You're not alone, but don't let it hold you back. With Strata's identity orchestration platform, you can secure all your apps on any cloud with any IDP, so your IT teams will never have to refactor for identity again. Imagine modernizing app identity in minutes instead of months, deploying passwordless on any tricky old app, and achieving business resilience with always-on identity, all from one lightweight and flexible platform. Want to see it in action? Share your identity challenge with us on a discovery call, and we'll hook you up with a complimentary pair of AirPods Pro. Don't miss out. Visit strata.io/cloudcast. That's strata.io/cloudcast. We all know that running global-scale multi-cloud applications is difficult and expensive, but being locked into a single cloud provider sucks. That's why our friends at Section created the platform for easy and cost-effective multi-cloud operations. Section actually makes it easier to operate multi-cloud than on your current single cloud. Applications run in the best locations for end-user performance, reliability, and security, and you get to focus on building your apps, not your infrastructure. Visit section.io/cloudcast to sign up for free with no credit card required. You can be running in under a minute. That's section.io/cloudcast.
And we're back. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to kind of talk about something that's, being talked about a lot, but, not something that we all love talking about. And that is, kind of the downturn that we're seeing right now in our industry in terms of layoffs. And in some cases, some big number types of layoffs, maybe not big in the percentage category. We're not talking about like 50%. We're oftentimes talking about 5, 6, 7%. But, I think that's where we get, we get ourselves a little bit backwards in our industry is we always want to talk about percentages and, and 10,000 people is a lot of people. I mean, that's an entire small town. That's an entire, mid-sized university. That is, a lot of people. And so I kind of want to go through some things, but most importantly, I want to kind of highlight to somebody, to anybody listening to this. And we feel like we do a lot of these Sunday Perspective shows for people who are newer to the industry, newer in the sense of like maybe haven't been through certain experiences. And unfortunately right now we're going through a lot of kind of experiences in terms of, growth isn't going through the roof for, companies, maybe not as much as it was. Maybe we're seeing some budget cutbacks. Maybe we're seeing layoffs. And maybe this, if you've been in the industry for 5, 10, 12 years, maybe you haven't seen this or haven't experienced it and so forth. So I'm trying to share some experience with that. And I think the first thing I want to share, because what happens whenever there are layoffs is people, question things. They question themselves. They question whether or not they want to stay in tech, whether or not they want to stay in a certain type of job. They start to question, is this type of job, they start to question things like, do I want to be in high growth, high risk jobs? Do I want to be in more stable jobs? What are the things that are going to provide me, the basics of life? And then, hopefully the things that are more than the basics of life that allow you to do things that are fun and creative and travel the world and do things for your family and for your kids and all that kind of stuff. I want to share a couple stories before we get into any sort of advice I can pass along to people. Because I think we have a tendency sometimes to think like that a layoff or any sort of job impacting type of thing, A, could be a career crippling type of thing, and then B, that it's necessarily like kind of a direct personal attack on somebody. Because I think a lot of times we go through the emotions of why did this happen? Why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And I want to share a few things because I think the reality is, and I'm sort of titling this episode, everybody gets fired eventually. And I think that's a reality, in the tech industry. I think we have a tendency sometimes to look at people and go, oh, that person is super successful or whatever. And one of the things that I learned early on, I went and I had a weird situation in which I went and talked to a fairly high up tech executives when I was at Cisco. And I asked them, I said, what's one of the most important lessons you've ever learned in the industry to get to your point in your career? And, I was kind of looking for some, deep insight in terms of like, oh, well, pick a certain technology or whatever it was. And he said, the most important thing you can do is fail, or have failure, be part of failure. And the most important thing you can do is learn from it. And, I think I've taken that probably to heart as much as any other piece of advice I've given, is that, you want to be around people who, haven't always necessarily been successful, because being successful may be a byproduct of hard work, but it may also be a byproduct of sort of luck and timing and being in the right place. Oftentimes you want to be around some people that have had some failures, some setbacks, because the things that they learn from that are oftentimes more valuable than things that you might learn from just being part of something successful. So anyways, I want to start with that. I want to start with a couple of examples for myself, because I think if somebody were to look at either Aaron and I, they would go, well, we looked at your resume and boy, it seems like you've been in the tech industry for 20 plus years. You've been at various companies, some of which are more successful than others. And so, on par, if we were keeping score, you might say, well, you've had a reasonably successful career. And I think, the more I think back on it, yes, I have friends and others and people we've met in the industry who've gone on to be founders of companies and vice presidents and senior vice presidents and, made a lot of money and all sorts of things. But I think, if you really are honest with yourself, tech is a hard industry. It's an industry that goes through a lot. It goes through a lot of ups and downs and goes through booms and busts. We've been on a run of a long-term sort of boom, and we're now sort of in not a bust, but a dip, kind of a correction. And I think for anybody who's been able to stick around in this industry for a long time, stay mostly gainfully employed, and comes out of it sane and is a good person and all those sort of things, I think you have to look at that as a whole as a successful career. And so, I think Aaron and I are proud of that, having survived. And I think we, I don't use the word survived lightly. Like this is a tough industry. There's a lot, it's not physically tough in terms of, we're not going down into a mine shaft. We're not near, machinery that could kill us on any given day, and a lot of, tough sort of blue collar things. We're not fire people. We're not going into a fire and saving lives, but it is a grind. It is long hours and stuff. But anyways, just a couple of things to give people some perspective. Very first job I was in, was nearly fired, was a sort of inside sales job, was nearly fired because on the nights when our regional director would come into town, I didn't drink enough. We would go out, we would celebrate whatever we were celebrating, or go out and got told, hey, you don't drink enough. You don't put enough, literally dollars on the tab when we do that. And was told that, if I don't correct that by the next time my boss comes in, I would be fired. Now, I took that as a thing. It wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do. Went and found something else. But it was, one of those things of like, oh, okay, you could be fired for that. Not for not making your sales number, but for, behavioral reasons, kind of cultural reasons, if you will, kind of strange, weird cultural reasons. I was fired second time in my career. I'd been at Cisco for 10 or 12 years, had been fortunate enough to work in a lot of different groups. And at one point, some things got a little bit tough in the economy. And the group that I was in was, they just sort of said, hey, that whole group is gone. We're getting rid of the whole group. And, so that was a kind of a big slap in the face. I'd been there for 12 years. I'd been very successful. I'd been part of a number of groups that had launched new products and done some successful things. And, but the timing of it was very bad. They basically looked at our entire group. They were looking at lots of groups to replace in the same vein that we saw, groups at Google and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and other places where they just got rid of entire groups. And that was it was a huge sort of like, wow, this thing that I thought I was part of this family and this sort of community of people, was just a number. Was just a number. And, that was the first sort of realization for me that I think a lot of people gone through. And I linked to a couple of videos of some things I saw in the show notes, that realization where you think, boy, the company talks all the time about community and family and, the things we do together. And then when things get a little bit tough, they sort of will cut you out. And I think that's, when you have that moment, you start to realize that, like, yes, there will be other times when I'll get a chance to work with some great people or an interesting company or a great company. But the whole idea of, your loyalty to a company or to somebody, when those sorts of things happen, when it feels like it's not just having to do with you individually, it has to do with, just dollars and, spreadsheets and balance sheets and all sorts of stuff. So that was the second time. That was the second time I was laid off. Third time I was laid off, I'm trying to think. Oh, I know. I was working for a company, end up, sort of the job was fine, but, like a lot of people, I was looking for something else, was exploring other things. And one of my coworkers actually kind of got wind of it and sort of narked me out, ratted me out, and went to the boss, went to HR and said, hey, I think this person's going to work for somewhere else. Turns out I ended up taking that other job, but did end up getting fired for just talking to somebody else because a coworker decided, I don't know, they wanted to be a cop or something that day. So anyways, those types of things happen as well. So not the mass layoff, but just somebody at work who decides, I I have a differing opinion and wants to take action. So those things happen as well. So anyways, I share a few of those. They weren't fun at the time. Anytime you think you're doing okay work and then something changes and all of a sudden you were literally fired and HR or your manager or somebody says, well, you're not wanted here. That's a tough situation. And so I kind of made a list of stuff that I've told other people before and that I recommend. And again, this is one of those things where I feel like we give out some useful information, but at the same time, you may entirely take all this and just go, you know what? I have no interest in hearing from anybody right now. I'm just angry. I'm just upset. I'm just frustrated because of this, right? Maybe you were on the side of being laid off. Maybe you were the manager who had to lay off a whole bunch of people, even though your group was doing great and you just feel terrible about yourself. And, maybe you are a friend of somebody and you're just like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I know you want a job. I know you have bills to pay and I just don't know what to tell you because I don't have anything to replace it for you. So, I understand there's all sorts of perspectives and this is just going to be one perspective. So take it with a grain of salt. Like I said, I think everybody in our industry, for the most part, eventually gets fired. It happens. Whether you should have gotten fired or you shouldn't have gotten fired, things happen in our industry that sometimes are within your control and a lot of times are without of your control. So, first thing is don't in the big picture of things, don't take it personal. Everybody takes it personal at some point, but in the big picture, don't take it too personal, especially if it's a big thing, especially if it wasn't, hey, I just did something terrible and I deserve to get fired. The second thing is, kind of give yourself a certain amount of time, but try not to become super emotional about it, right? Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, the company that you are working for almost never takes responsibility for laying you off, right? Like you have a tendency to think, well, you should have seen this economic downturn coming. You should have seen this lack of sales coming. You should have seen this, whatever it was coming because, you're the leader of the group. In most cases, they're not going to take accountability and you just have to sort of know that going in. Sometimes they'll say, well, I'm sorry, or yeah, it was on me. But, they don't do that in a way of going, well, let's find a way to keep people. They do it in a way where they go, hey, we had to remove people. We had to reduce people. So, they can be compassionate. We've seen good exit packages and stuff like that sometimes, but, you shouldn't expect them to take responsibility and you shouldn't expect them to necessarily be the most compassionate. It's just kind of unfortunate nature of business. But what I meant by try not to be too emotional about it is because there won't be a lot of answers necessarily. Why did this happen? Or why was it me? Or what could I have done better? It's a little bit sometimes like one of those bad breakups. You don't always get the answers you want. So initially it can be very difficult. You can go looking for those answers. I would just, kind of go, hey, within a week or something, I'm just going to stop. I'm not going to go looking for answers that I'm not going to get or trying to analyze something that you're just not going to get, those types of things. Now, in terms of maybe useful information, I do think you got to allow yourself to go through the grieving process, right? Go through the sort of 5 steps of grief, right? First and foremost, go research what they are. You may have never gone through this before. You may have never had a firing. You may have never had a big, relationship breakup. And it's useful to sort of go through them because you'll see yourself realizing it. You'll go through frustration. You'll go through rationalization. You'll go through, all the different steps. And you do sort of have to get through those steps because this is oftentimes a difficult thing, especially if you don't just immediately bounce back and find a new job. Now, the first thing I often find, and especially with myself, and I've gone through this a couple of times, is the first thing I often ask myself is, do I want to stay in the tech industry? And this is an important question because, maybe you look at it and you're like, oh, the tech industry isn't a good place to be right now. And, it's hard to tell. We've seen some layoffs. We don't know if this is going to be, a prolonged thing as to when companies will be back to hiring actively. We don't know if this will be a 6-month thing, if it'll be a 2-year thing. If, there's somewhere kind of lateral that you can go from the job that you had to something different, just at a different company. But I do find a lot of people sort of look at, do I want to be in the tech industry, in whatever context that you were. You may have skills that are transferable into something else. And, for some people, tech's where they want to be and they're fine with the risk and reward. But for other people, they'll get spooked by it, or they'll just say, look, it's not worth it. I can go work in finance. I can go work in manufacturing. I can go teach. I can do whatever I want to do. But it is one of those questions that's not unreasonable to ask. Do I want to stay in this industry? Now, a couple of pieces of advice I've been given and I've given to other people. And I learned this one sort of very early. I had a friend who was, what I thought was incredibly successful and well prepared, and, had gone and gotten an MBA and, had one of those jobs that you were like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool for somebody who's 25 or 26 or whatever it was at the time, got laid off. And one of the things that he passed along to me, he said, there's a tendency once you get laid off, especially if you get some sort of package, let's say they give you a couple of weeks or a couple of months or something of severance, to just kind of go, oh, I can be kind of a bum. I can be kind of more relaxed than I normally am. I don't have to do that. And he said, actually, one of the things that was most important, and I've found this myself as well, is as soon as you can, get back into a routine, get back into being active in life, get up get up every day at a certain time. All right. Find a routine, go to the gym, get information the way you get it, read the news, prepare things, because what you don't want to do is those routines are hard. They're hard to rebuild once you sort of get away from them. So there's that, make a plan every day, find a way to stay healthy or get healthier than you were before. Maybe you were neglecting your health, get to the gym, go for a walk, begin to eat better, get some of the sugar out of your diet, whatever it is. But get yourself into a mode such that, you're going to have the right mindset. Once you start interviewing again, you're going to be able to kind of return to a working mentality, a working model, a working day-to-day routine. That's super important, and it may seem kind of minuscule, but just having a regular routine is super important. Second thing I'll say is, especially if you do get some sort of package, some sort of layoff package, I think a lot of times I see people go, oh, cool, I'm going to go on vacation and I don't have to worry about stuff. Like, it hasn't been hard to find jobs in the past. Begin looking kind of as soon as you can, especially if you have some financial buffers, if you have the chance to double dip for a few months and, have a job and sort of a buffer, or, I find too many people go, oh, well, we were given some sort of package and it's 3 months, and so I'll start looking again in 3 months. The hiring process, especially when things are tighter, not when things are easy, when you've got 5 or 6 different offers and you're doing, when things are tighter, it'll take longer than you think, and companies will be much more selective than you think. And so the process will take longer than you anticipate. If it took a month before to find a job, it might take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, right? So if you have some sort of buffer, don't waste it. You may decide for a week, I'm going to go somewhere or something, but, don't decide oftentimes to live a completely different lifestyle because you think you have a buffer, because re-entering can be harder than you think, and often is, harder or slower than you think. Next thing I often tell people is find something creative to do, build something, whether it's, you get out in your yard and then you plant a garden, or you write some new code and you just build an application of something that you've been wanting to experiment to do. If you're in marketing, build a campaign, build a presentation, build a video, build something that's going to get your creative juices going. Something that, maybe you haven't done before, that you kind of wanted to, but you didn't have the time to, or you want to go learn that new tool, that new skill, that experiment with something, figure out if you're a good communicator, build something creative. There's just something that happens in your brain when you do something creative and you have some flexibility to experiment and fail a little bit and try and just make something that you own, right? So, get yourself a little bit into some sort of creative juices. I find that's super helpful. It frees your mind. It relaxes you, all those sorts of things. It brings out the best of the things that are in your brain. Next thing, we tell people this all the time. I think even when you have a job, sometimes we get lax in this is, stay active with your skills and stay active with your networks, right? So be reaching out to the people that, are your friends in the industry that will, tell it to you straight, that can help you, that know people. Be active with your skills, be working on stuff. If you're a coder, build something, right? Do it on a regular basis. If you write, if you're a creative, make sure you're writing every day, building something every day, even if it's small or for an hour or whatever. You don't want to let those skills that you've built up deteriorate. And it's kind of amazing how fast they can deteriorate if you're not, actively working on it. And then, I think the last thing that I'll say, and this is running a little bit long, and again, these aren't unique things to anybody's, specific situation, but they're things that, again, both Aaron and I have talked about and experienced from having lost jobs and have been in tough situations is, at some point, regardless of where you were before, right, you're not a job anymore. It is essentially a sunk cost at this point. And depending on what you want to do next, you need to be somewhat realistic. And again, it's going to be completely contextual. You might have been a director at a previous job and you go, well, I fought a long time to become a director and that's what I deserve. And that's the kind of work I do. And, at some point, you're going to have to be realistic about, where you are. If you find another job quickly and you're a director again, cool. That's awesome. You're a senior director, maybe you're a director, whatever it is. But at some point, you also need to be very conscious about, well, who else is dependent upon me? What else am I dependent upon? And, think about, what it means with your family and think about what it means with if you've got kids and, and sometimes you've got to be a little bit humble and realize that having a job, a good job that pays the bills, that has health insurance, that, allows you to not have big gaps in your resume, big holes in your resume might be more important than going, well, I'm holding out for that next director job. Maybe you take a senior manager job. Maybe you take, somewhat of a pay cut, but it's better than zero, right? And so I think that's the last thing is at some point, in your refinding process of trying to be back into the workforce in terms of having another job, you have to be realistic at some point if the what I want turns into something that's not, what you want. You get into what do I need type of situations, and your needs and your wants might be different. And you need to be realistic because the last thing you want to do is create a whole bunch of stress on yourself, stress with your family, stress with anybody who's dependent upon you because you're holding out for something, right? There's always opportunities once the economy gets back to normal, once you've been back in a job for 6 months or a year or something to go, hey, maybe I'm going to go look around again because this isn't where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be bigger. I know I'm more capable of things. But when things are tough, when things are tight, when maybe you're not necessarily employed or you're coming off of something, again, this is where you sort of set boundaries, set timelines about saying, hey, I'm going to do this for a while. I'm going to try and achieve this for a period of time, but plan B is just as important as that initial plan. So that's my sort of last piece of advice from having been on both sides of it, been on the side of, unfortunately, having to be the manager that tells somebody that you're laying them off, which is horrible. Being on the other side of it in terms of being the person that's laid off and was surprised, being, for a big group, an individual, but the other thing I'll say is, if you get a chance, if you are somebody who knows somebody who was affected by one of these layoffs, just reach out, be a friend, be a good person. You don't necessarily have to go to them with a job, but, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open. Sometimes you just need to check in with them. They just want to hear from somebody. They just want to know that they haven't been shunned by the industry because, hey, they were part of a layoff. Okay, well, it wasn't your fault. You're not a bad person. You didn't become a bad person overnight. But sometimes you do sort of want to know that, hey, people still care. They're still your friends more than your coworkers or something like that. So anyways, if you get a chance to do that, reach out to a friend, say hi, check in, make sure they're doing okay, see if they need anything. Maybe they need a few bucks. Maybe they need a meal. Maybe they just need someone to go and have coffee with and just sort of be human again or whatever it is. So anyways, this is a tough period for the industry. It'll be tough for a little bit. Hopefully it's not too long. We never know how long it's going to be. The good news is our industry tends to be incredibly entrepreneurial and incredibly impatient. And so, you're going to see people, again, looking for good people, looking for smart people, looking for energetic people. Don't think that you deserve anything, that you're, you are entitled to something, be grateful, be energetic. Sometimes that's the most important thing between two candidates is which one seems more energetic, more excited, people that people want to work with, as opposed to sort of like, they're entitled. They think they deserve this. So anyways, lots of words, lots of stuff to think in. Maybe some part of it is helpful to you. And again, we always are willing to sort of answer some questions. We don't always have a laundry list of jobs to just pass people around to, but again, if we can always help the community, we're always welcome to help. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Hopefully, if you were impacted by this, you are working through some things. Hopefully some of this was helpful to you. If you weren't impacted by this, keep your head down, keep working. This is a period of time when a lot of companies are going to do some weird things that are unexpected. So, keep doing the best work you can and, keep paying the bills because, things will get better if they're not great at your situation right now. So with that, I'll wrap it up. Thanks everybody for listening. It's been a great first month of the year. Numbers have been way up, which means you are telling a friend, you are, recommending the show to other people, which we are always super grateful for. So we're going to keep cranking out shows. I hope you're doing well, and we will talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to The Cloudcast. Please visit thecloudcast.net to find more shows, show notes, videos, and everything social media.